Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, back for another indie horror spotlight with one of my favorite guys. Listen, if you watch the channel, you know who this man is. He is a one hell of a fucking filmmaker. Makes some shit that makes you go, whoa. And he has a new film out that I had the pleasure of seeing, and it's called The Benefactress. I have with us, welcome back, Guerrilla Metropolitana. Guerrilla, welcome back to the Horror Realm.
Hi, Travis. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much to have me here again. And it's a pleasure for me.
It's always a blast, man. Listen, I always look forward to interviewing you, man. Unfortunately, this is the last time we have an interview on a horror round.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so we're gonna make this the best one. So listen, man, I've watched The Benefactress, but for people who have not seen it, tell them a little bit about it.
The Benefactress is an experimental film. Um, it's a film that opens up with a very simple story uh, about an important woman secretly financing um, a film to an underground filmmaker, which is myself, and on the condition that she also appears through video link in the film. And that's it. And that's the story. And from that point on, we see um, the protagonist of the film, which is an actress, um, doing certain things to another woman, which we begin to question whether or not she is also an actress or if she's being kept there captive as a sex slave against her will. And as the film goes on, we see the director, myself, moving from behind the camera to in front of the camera and taking part in the abuse and all the sadistic acts that occur. And the film continues without a development of character, without a development of location, subject. The film continues pretty much on the same line. It's a one way road cinematic trip of sadism, torture, and insanity throughout the whole film. Uh, the film is set in 2 or 3 rooms in a remote house in London, and that's all we see. We see these two women and the director getting involved in a series of sexual acts and to the end of the film. And that's what the film is. There's no twist in a traditional sense of it. It's a film about filmmaking. It's a film about vision. It's a film about what an underground filmmaker can do if given the tools to be truly and totally free.
Now, as a filmmaker, I should say, as a audience, for someone who loves watching cinema, this movie to me is like a big fuck you to society. It's a big fuck you to filmmakers, horror filmmakers, because you cross a lot of boundaries in this movie that are forbidden. I mean, it's to the point where it's kind of like it's mean spirited. Did you mean for it to be that way?
Yes, this film is a big fuck off to mainstream cinema Uh, it's also a big fuck off to classic traditional storytelling. In fact, the film just came out a few weeks ago and already attracted attention on both sides. Those who love it and wrote some wonderful reviews, and those more in line with the so called extreme horror that are used to a more structured, classic storytelling basis, attacking the film for not being coherent enough with the story and for not giving the story a great amount of importance, which is true. The story I put in the film, which is barely mentioned in the beginning, it's almost an excuse to justify the film. In other words, I break my own rules by creating a film that does not even fully follow the storyline written by me. It's a film that follows its own structure. It's a film shot in two rooms. So there's no development like in all films. Everything that you see happens right there. And everything that um, cinema in general, including horror, um, tends to walk away from, like pornography, for example, or sexual graphic violence, or other things, I put it in the film. Not only that, I appear as an actor and I demand to one of the actresses, Mystery Woman, in fact, the co star, to have real sexual scenes with me to be filmed on camera. So the film is actually authentic. Uh, Part of the film, some of the sexual sequences are real. So that's the other thing about this film. I wanted to make a film that would incorporate as much realism as possible. Most shots are one take, two takes. The whole film is like one big long shot, all in one or two rooms. It's very claustrophobic. It doesn't vary in terms of subject. It's all there for 1 hour and 7 minutes. The viewer is bombarded with sadism. And that is my way to say to contemporary mainstream values, not only in cinema, but in general, fuck you. I piss on you. I glorify in this film anything that um, stimulates artistic freedom, no matter the cost, even if it's sexual violence and women. I use it. Even if it's all kind of sadism, I use it because, in my view, artistic freedom should not stop in front of anything and should be truly free to expose anything that filmmaker wants. That's why the film is called The Benefactress, an exposure of cinematic freedom. This is not about the story mentioned in the beginning of the film. This film is about filmmaking. The story at the beginning of the film being told, it's almost an excuse to justify the existence of the film itself. The film ultimately is about filmmaking, the art of underground filmmaking in the freest form.
So take me into your mind, because I mean there is graphic sexual abuse that's happening in this movie, fellatio, penetration. take me in your mindset when these actions are happening during the film. What kind of mindset are you getting into?
I was extremely sexually aroused. The actresses were very professional. They knew what was going on. Um, the atmosphere was very electric, even though I have prepared a script months and months before for the day of shooting. Once I was at that location, that house, um, I decided at the last minute to ignore what was written in those pages and to improvise, literally. And the film is 95% improvised. I used a couple of cameras, a few spotlights, very limited equipment, uh, a bunch of actresses, and that was it. I wanted to create the very essence of underground filmmaking, underground, which doesn't mean horror. It means underground, which, in my view, in my personal idea, it incorporates also pornography, because pornography is ultimately what I am as a filmmaker, already shown in Darius, although in smaller doses. But pornography is a huge component of what I am artistically as a filmmaker. So I told the actresses to get wild, to break boundaries, not to be afraid. I told them we're going to lock ourselves in this house for the weekend. We're going to get stripped naked, get wild, and we're going to rock. And that's exactly what happened. I came during shooting a few times because I was constantly hard, and I kept on shooting with a hand camera on. One of the actresses, Mystery Woman, she was sexually aroused, and quite a few times she was, shall we say, stimulated. Um, yeah, and Mystery Woman I'm referring to. And yeah, and the whole atmosphere was professional, easygoing, but at the same time very erotic, very powerful, very, very electric. And it was about the vision that I had, which was to create pornographic underground magic.
Now, did actual penetration and actual oral sex actually? Because you were saying, a lot of you guys were naked. This is you got into the part. Was there actual penetration during the filming?
With Mystery Woman, yes.
Now, what was that like? I mean, because as a man, how do you not finish? How do you get into the mindset? Okay, I'm trying to do a role, but I'm also getting pleasure, but I don't want to
Because
get into that realm.
good question, because I think when I made that film, I made that film with the idea of eliminating the dividing line between fiction and reality. In other words, I wanted to make it as real as possible. And so, whatever I could do for real, apart from murder, of course,
Yes.
anything else, whatever I could do for real, a lot of that, I've done it for real. And that was one of them. With Mystery Woman, I decided not to act, but to actually do it.
Was there any safe words for Mystery Woman or anybody in this that at any point, okay, because everything is 95, you said 95% improvised. Was there any point where you were like, okay, this is making my actress a little uncomfortable?
She was not uncomfortable because I did ask if she had problems with reality before doing the shot, obviously, and she said no. That's why I proceeded. I always ask. I don't just do it.
Yes.
Obviously, no, no, obviously not. But she didn't have any problem, and since then she became my personal muse. On top of that,
Now,
so
now I
yeah,
can imagine as a filmmaker, it was hard to find the right cast for this movie because this movie is it's intense, and the average actress would not be able to withstand or go through with this role. Was it hard for you to cast the right ladies for this movie?
this film was nothing but a problem in terms of casting. I had huge problems. This film goes back a year and a half in terms of casting. I even done international casting, casting from United States, casting from my own native country, Italy, casting from other parts of Europe, casting from Australia with a couple of candidates, casting from Britain, of course, casting from many countries worldwide, and I did find many candidates. I think I had a total of almost 200 candidates within the space of a year and a half. Many of them were interested, but then they changed their idea because they weren't too sure about the sexual content. Others, they wanted to go along with it, but some of them wanted royalties in the contract, and I say, no way. Other times, their husbands got involved and say no. They didn't want their wives to be involved in such a film. Other times, I had situations where female candidates they wanted to be in the film, but they wanted different kind of roles. They wanted to dictate things, so I say no. Anyway, at the end, after many candidates, some of them were fired because they were not strong enough. At the end, the choice went to Juicy X, which was the protagonist of my 19 minutes short film Corporate Torment. I decided to give her the main role, and Mystery Woman, which is another actress who I met on social media. She's a mainstream actress, and I decided to contact her and to offer her the role. And the condition was that her identity had to be hidden, including the name. And that's exactly what happened. So that's why nobody knows what she looks like and nobody knows her real name. We became quite friendly, and then we became very friendly. And during the filming, we became very close. And after the filming, we became very close. In fact, today she is my muse. She has the most beautiful vagina, in which writer Del Gibson has decided to write a book on my cinema called Searching for the Perfect Butterfly. And it's called Butterfly because in reference of Mystery Woman's vagina, which looks like a butterfly shaped vagina with wings. And I'm saying this because I saw in Juicy X a strong protagonist, and I saw in Mystery Woman my perfect muse. So I wanted to put these two incredible actresses together into this cocktail of pornographic madness. And that's exactly what happened. And they deliver outstanding performances, both of them, Juicy X and Mystery Woman. Very, very few actresses will have had the courage and the ability to perform at that level as they did in the film.
But how do you find out? I mean, it's just a mystery woman. Anybody can say, "Hey, yes, listen, Gorilla, I can do this. I'm down for this." But what does a process look like in the casting meeting to know that this actress is really prepared for what's going to happen in this movie?
The casting process, and that is for every single candidate, even in the past, involved in the selection process of the casting, was to have nude pictures of the actresses. I wanted to know what they look like naked. I wanted to know what they look like, their bodies, what kind of physical reaction they would give me if I had a hard on by looking at their pictures or not, because it all depends on my reaction. If I have a hard on, it means yes, she is the right one for my film. If I don't have a hard on, no. And for a hard on, I don't mean that she has to be a Barbie doll, beautiful. No, she has to be someone that sexually stimulates me. Um, and both actresses, Juicy, she's a very large lady. She had breasts that I always fancied, and Mystery Woman, um, she had the most beautiful vagina I always dreamed about. So Juicy X and Mystery Woman together, they had the physical characteristics and also the acting skills necessary to perform these roles. And yes, they did not do any preparation. They've been asking for months. We've been doing monthly meetings, Zoom meetings, and I was preparing them mentally about the film, about filming, about what the film was going to be, how we were going to shoot, etc., etc., etc. But they never were exposed to any kind of training because I wanted their performances to be spontaneous as possible. So when we finally met a few months ago at that location, we spent together a weekend. They didn't know what to expect. They knew about the film, they knew about everything. They just didn't know the scenes, the sequences, what to perform, how to do it, and so on. And I took them just like I did with my previous actress, Il Argento, in Darius, step by step. And and that's how we made the film, totally improvising, going with the flow, and creating an atmosphere of claustrophobic madness where lesbian rape, masturbation, sadism was constantly there, whilst I could film and masturbate at the same time and incorporate that into the film. So the film is very sickening, and it is a manifesto, a cultural manifesto of freedom. It's a big fuck you to traditional filmmaking and to traditional values.
So, how do you feel as a film filmmaker, which I've seen a lot of people have said about the Benefactress? They have grouped it into the subgenre of torture porn. Like the Hostels with Saul. How do you feel about that?
It has nothing to do with. It's not even horror. Technically, it's not even horror. It's an experimental underground art house pornographic film, which is so disturbing that automatically becomes almost horror. but
Oh,
it's
it's
not.
horror.
But it's
It's
not.
horror, girl.
It's not horror per se.
Yeah.
It has nothing whatsoever to do with those titles you just mentioned.
Mhm.
Those titles you just mentioned are pure entertainment. This film is an experiment of cinema, an experiment of filmmaking.
So, do you make a movie like this to piss certain groups of people off? Because especially here in the states, right? We had this whole Me Too movement. We have this huge radical feminist movement going on. I could see them tearing something like this apart. Do you make movies like this to pretty much offend certain groups of people?
No, my idea is not to deliberately offend because I don't give a flying fuck about their existence to start with. So I don't make movies to piss certain people, if I can call them people, off. Um, I make films for one reason only, and that's to express myself. This film is fundamentally an act of protest. It's a manifesto, it's a cultural manifesto of artistic freedom, saying I can, in my film, so I repeat, in my film, which doesn't mean in reality, but in my film, I can do whatever I want. I can rape, kill, fuck, film, do whatever I want. And if you're offended, that's your fucking problem. But again, that is liberating because I wanted to use female performers as main tools of that degree of sexual graphic violence. So nobody could say, oh, this is a man's film, misogynistic. Oh, yeah? Most of the violence is perpetrated by a woman against another woman. So is she misogynistic too? So my problem is not with violence or no violence or any other issue. My problem is when you have this politically correct virus that contaminates the world of cinema. I have quite few horror reviewers, including someone who, some kind of horror guy, um, who does reviews. Nice guy, but I showed him my film, and he didn't go past the pump scene. He say, "Sorry, Gorilla, I can't go past that. That's too much. I don't do this. I'm sorry. This is pornographic." And I thought, what a fucking pussy you are. And you call yourself a big tough horror dude, you know? So it's easy, and I do see a lot of that in the extreme horror field.
Mhm.
If you have blood and guts, yeah, no problem. The more, the better. But as soon as you touch pornography, rape, whatever, only some digest it, not all. But again, my film is not even about that. My film is about artistic freedom, is about the filmmaker grabbing his little hand camera and within the space of 2 or 3 rooms in one little house in London is making an underground pornographic horror film and is letting himself go. He's fucking one of his own actresses, is coming on the bum of the main protagonist whilst filming, is, having the third actress licking the vagina of the co-star on set, and I keep on masturbating whilst I kill the actress. This is the film. This is
And
the
it's
epitome of perversion and freedom.
So let me tell you, because you sent me the movie, because you respect my opinion when it comes to movies and everything, and I appreciate it, by the way. So when you sent me the film, I'm gonna tell you like what went through my head. as I was watching this movie, and by the way, I made it all the way through the end. I was like, wow, what the fuck am I watching? Because one thing that you do, which I love, is there's, by the way, this movie there's very little dialogue, actual verbal dialogues. There's very little verbal dialogue. It's a lot of images that's popping. One second you might have a lady masturbating on TV. One second you might see some sexual assault. One second you might see something else. Like it's a lot of things just popping at you, and it's almost like I've never done acid before, but I can imagine this is what an acid or trip is. And so that's what it felt like to me. But I also felt dirty. I felt disgusting, more so than Darius. I felt dirty, disgusting because, and I guess that's how I'm supposed to feel. I'm watching someone get sexually assaulted. I'm watching someone getting beaten. I'm watching, penetration, fellatio, oral sex happening as force. I'm watching this, and and everything, and it's so mean spirited. It's so mean spirited. But isn't sexual assault supposed to be mean spirited? Like, isn't it supposed to be graphic? Doesn't it supposed to make you feel sick? Doesn't it supposed to make you feel? And it made me feel all of those feelings, and it was hard to sit through. And brother, I've watched some hardcore shit. I've seen some hardcore shit. This was on a whole nother level.
Yes, I mean, again, the intent was to have to start with myself and a bunch of actresses on the set, but then to bring over, like a party, the audience into the film and experience with us, the crew, what was going on, all the madness, all the perversion. Um, it's like being collectively intoxicated with ecstasy, and you lose control, and even if along the way murder happens, it's okay because it's part of the euphoria. Even if rape goes on, it's okay because it's part of the euphoria. So the intent was to create a euphoria kind of atmosphere where the viewer, the public, the audience could be participant of the film rather than being passive watchers, passive viewers, but to turn them into part of the crew, part of the cast, part of the group of filmmakers involved during the making of the film. So it's very meta cinema, the film within the film, reality within the film. It's very much like that. So people who are feeling dirty, one reviewer, again, he gave my film 1.5 star. Um, he said that he felt dirty watching the film and he wanted to brush himself. Uh,
Yes.
uh, you know, that to me, even though he didn't like the film, it's a good thing because it means that the film has a certain strength, a certain power, a certain quality. This film is not made to make you feel good. It's not made to shock you either. And it's not, once again, about the little story told at the beginning of the film. It's not even about that. This film is about artistic freedom, it's about filmmaking, it's about being wild and free, no matter the moral or legal cost. And if rape or murder or anything else happens along the way, so be it.
Now, I would like to congratulate you. You were able to get this film distributed through Bloody Impact. Shout out to Shane Michaels, um, big fan of the show. Um, what was that like to be able to get such a great indie horror film company as Bloody Impact to distribute this film and believe in you?
It's interesting because initially I didn't even know Blood Pact Films at first. Initially, I
Blood
presented
Pact,
my
sorry, yes.
film to one of the major um, distribution companies in extreme horror. You know, and the guy who watched the film, who saw the film, didn't fucking get it. He didn't fucking get the film. It was that thick. And so I said, okay, no problem. Fuck you. I'm gonna go somewhere else. So I presented the film to another so-called extreme horror company, and they could not tell me if the film. They were quite interested in the film, although they didn't find it gory. And I said, okay, so fucking what? I mean, and that's when I began to understand that people who are into extreme gore, they are for the most part very tunnel vision. Anything outside of that, they don't get it. Most of them, anyway. Not all of them, but most of them. And this particular company, they weren't too happy with the fact that there was no gore, but that was not the main reason. The main reason was that they could not guarantee me that the film could be distributed within reasonable times. In other words, I could have been waiting 2 or 3 years in theory. And I say, fuck you. So I kept on looking, and almost by accident, I bumped into this company through social media, which I've never heard of, called Blood Pact Films. I looked at this company, and it seemed like a very interesting company. Quite young company, only a few years old. The company hasn't been around that long, and they distribute really pretty much everything. Not only horror, they distribute also crime films, action films, drama, kids documentaries, all kind of stuff. And I was like, I like the name Blood Pup Films. I got in touch with the person, Shane, who runs the company. And I remember it was Sunday. So this was literally a couple of days after I got turned down by these two companies of so-called extreme horror. And yes, and he saw the film. Um, he loved the film, and he said, "Gorilla, we want it. We want this film." So in the meantime, I remember I also did contact another company in Europe. They didn't want to touch this film. So once I found Blood Pack Films, they loved the film, and I gave it to them. I said, okay, if you want it, it's yours. And within few weeks, 3 4 weeks, they put it on DVD. It is currently on DVD. It's going well. Soon it will be on Blu-ray, and after it will be also on streaming platforms. And it's the best deal I ever had, the best company I could ever ask for, because contrary to extreme horror companies, which are so stuck on one thing, Blood Pact Films seems to be interested in underground filmmaking on a much wider spectrum, not just horror, but everything. And they own the film now. Blood Pact Films own the film.
Now, could you imagine that the benefactors would ever be on a streaming channel?
It will be.
No, but I'm talking about, could you imagine beforehand that, like, wow, that this movie is going to be streamed for people, masses?
To be honest with you, with this film, I contrary to Darius, which I presented the film to very few festivals, because I never believed that my cinema could go well with festivals, because my cinema is not horror, is not traditional art house, and yet it contains a bit of this, a bit of that. So I never was really crazy about submitting my films to festivals, but I did with Darius only a few. But with this one, I made a decision not to submit my film to any festival. In fact, it went straight to video, like porn films. Porno films go straight to video, and this is not different. And the reason why is because I didn't believe that festivals, any genre from horror to experimental festivals and so on, would accept a film like this, because experimental festivals will look at this thing and go like, oh, what the fuck is this? What is this? Horror festivals will go like, oh, there's no blood, it's just pornography. What is this shit? So there's no place for a film like this in the festival circuit. So I thought, you know what, fuck it. Darius has become practically a cult film already in less than 2 years. It's now available with multiple distribution companies. It's on streaming. It's on Prime. It's in Europe. It's in America. It's every fucking where. It's being reviewed, and it continues to be reviewed by some of the top critics. And the Benefactress will follow the same path. Will follow the same path of a niche film, which means a film for specific audiences, not for the mainstream masses, and not even for, traditionally speaking, horror masses. They have their stupid films as references, killer clowns movies, cliche movies, gore and guts kind of film. They have their films of references. This film, just like Darius, will have its own audience over a period of time. People who are into experimental, dark, art house, underground kind of stuff, which involves a certain degree of horror, a certain degree of pornography, a bit of this, a bit of that, rather than just one set audience like horror, and that's it.
Well, listen. By the way, Shane, I apologize. Blood Impact films, but yes, but listen.
Blood packed films.
Blood. Why do I keep saying Impact? Blood Pact films. All right. By the way, and by the way, Gorilla, this is it for you. This is your last film. You're saying fuck you to everybody after this.
Yes. After this, I will be following the film for the next year in terms of promotion, obviously. And this year, writer Dal Gibson will publish a book on my cinema, as you know, Searching for the Perfect Butterfly. And me, after this year of promotion of the Benefactress, I will dedicate my time, effort, and energy into experimental photography, which is something I already do, but I will do even more. Yes, I could continue as a filmmaker if I wanted to. I had plenty of short stories. I have another feature film, in fact, in the drawer. But I've decided to finish with two films. I think I achieved what I wanted to achieve with two feature films, such as Darius and The Benefactress, and I don't need to prove any further. With these two films, I've created something nobody could create. I didn't make films that could be replicated by other filmmakers. A film like Darius or The Benefactress, only a mind like me could make them. This is not cinema that can be done by anybody. There is no film school for this. This is only this is the product of me as a filmmaker, and I'm proud of what I've done, and I don't feel the need to prove myself any further. This is my testimony. This is my heritage as a filmmaker, and I will continue in the world of arts with experimental photography, possibly painting, erotic art, and I'll be watching from the outside how my two films grow over the years.
Well, it's sad, but also it's a good thing, man. Listen, you and I have grown together. You were one of my first guests when I first started my show, and one of my favorite interviews. We always have a great time, man.
Yeah,
Listen, please, everybody, go down in the description, down on the website to get your copy of the Benefactress on DVD. By the way, listen, viewer discretion warning. This is a fucked up film. If you're squeamish and this and that, this is not for you. But like, if you want to see something fucked up, new, and it's gonna blow your fucking mind, definitely grab your copy. Now, Gorilla, what can everyone find you?
I'll be on Facebook anyway. I will be on Facebook and promoting my film, and even after, I'll keep promoting the film or the films through new reviews that will be coming on my two films. Every time there's new reviews coming up, I will publish them on my Facebook page. So that will go on, but my my activity will be interrupted. But the Facebook page will keep on publishing new articles, new reviews on the films I've done, and so forth. Yeah,
Gorilla, I do not think this is going to be your last film, man. I think this one's going to blow up and it's going to be a big thing. And I think the itch is going to come back, and because the fans are going to want you to come back, and I feel like you're going to have to come back. So I know this is not our last interview. This is not your last film. So I'm gonna definitely look forward to our next interview. All right,
thanks,
everyone.
Travis.
It's always a blast, man. Listen, everyone. Thank you for coming to an edition of a Horror Room. By the way, we got like 3 more interviews coming up with Blood Pack Films, Shane Michaels. We got Dell Gibson and a film reviewer. We're soon get a women's perspective of this film, as well as the one and only exclusive interview only here at the Horror Room with Mystery Woman. So definitely check out, subscribe, and follow this channel. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. That is my man, Guerrilla Metropolitana. We'll see you next time. Take care.
See you.